Hi and welcome to Arise Cake Creations. I'm Sarah. I've been away for a few weeks working on some exciting cake collaborations, but I'm back this week with another great tutorial. I just wanted to say thank you and welcome to my new subscribers. So on this week's tutorial we're going to be making this beautiful ethereal fantasy rice paper flower. It's a really modern, delicate cake decorating technique for your cakes. So without further ado, let's get started. As always, all the information for this tutorial is in the description box below. So we're starting off by using rice paper. Now this is the same rice paper that's actually used for spring rolls. You should be able to purchase this from any Asian shop. Now when you take it out of the packet, it's actually quite stiff to the touch and has a texture on both sides. But when it's put through water, that texture disappears and it becomes really soft and malleable so that you can mold it into any shape. So we're going to begin by making the petals and cutting the smaller size petals. I then moved on to cut the medium size petals. Now all I did with my disc is just cut it into quarters and then finally cut the large size petals, and I only used one disc for each of the large petals. Just to add a bit more interest to each petal, I actually cut a wavy line into each of the edges of each of the different sizes of petals. I've listed out the number of petals I've used here. I used cold water rather than warm water to pour into my plate because I found that warm water actually softens the rice paper much quicker, whereas cold water gives you time to work with it. I used Sugarflair's SkinTone colour and added it to the water, and also used AmeriColor's deep pink colour. Now the deep pink colour actually left speckles of pink in the water, which I wasn't too happy about at first, but I decided to leave it, and it didn't actually have much effect when I put the rice paper into the water, so I continued using it. So if you have that issue, then it shouldn't cause you any problems if you encounter this. To another plate, I also added some extra colour just on the side. Take your first petal and soak it in the water. Now it should only take about 30 seconds to a minute, if that, to actually become soft. Now don't let it soak in there too long, because the longer that you leave it to soak is the softer and harder it will be to manage it. Just actually add a tinge of colour to the edges of the petals and also a tinge of colour to the centre of the petals. Also have some scrunched up baking paper or parchment paper ready on some baking trays that you're actually going to drape your softened rice paper petals onto. On this first petal, as I lifted it away from the plate, I did try and use my paintbrush again, but I wouldn't advise you to do that. It really is much easier just holding the petals gently either side and then just draping it onto the parchment paper or baking paper, so that you can actually kind of get a really lovely organic and natural shape for your petal. Continue the same process for all of the petals, so that's soaking the petals, actually adding the extra pink to the edges if you're using that, and also the yellow, the Cornish cream to the centre, and then draping them onto your parchment paper to dry. If you find that the rice paper curls back on itself at any point, just dip your fingers in some of that water to help you unfold those edges. At the stage when the rice paper has been on the parchment paper, it will become a bit tacky. Now this is the best time to actually add your wires. Now right at the very beginning I think I showed green wires, but I would suggest that you would use white Florist wires because it is better and doesn't really show up at the inside points. It's just literally a better colour, and you can also colour it up as well. When you've done all your petals, place them onto a baking tray and bake them in a preheating oven at a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius, that's 170 degrees Fahrenheit, for 30 minutes. Then switch off the oven and leave them in there with the door slightly ajar for a further 30 minutes to 1 hour until the petals are dry. So I decided I wanted a centre for this fantasy flower, so I took a small amount of Gumpaste, coloured in cream, and then just done it into a teardrop shape. I'm using an 18 gauge wire with a hook on the end, and then just pass through the teardrop shape, and then use some tweezers just to pinch out a design right in the centre. I then took about 30 small size double-ended stamen, gathered them together, and then wrapped some half-width green Florist tape around the centre just so that they could be kept together and in place. I then took some crystal colour dust colours in cream and also buttercup to actually colour up the stamen, and also dusted the central part as well. To assemble this together, brush off any excess edible dust off of the stamen, and then take the central part, fold the stamen in half, and then just hold it between your fingers, and then just gently and gradually feed the central part of the wire through the centre of the stamen, hold it in place, and take some half-width tape and then just secure the base of the stamen in place over the central part of the flower. Then I also took some full-width tape just to kind of further secure that in place. Once your rice paper petals are fully dry from the oven, gently, really gently remove them from the parchment paper. Now I mean really gently, because these petals are really delicate. They're really beautiful, but they are really delicate as well. So take your time just to gently remove each petal away from the parchment paper. To assemble this flower, start with the smallest size petals first. So place your petals onto a sponge or a soft surface, gather your centre, and then literally begin to tape your petals around the centre. So have some half-width Florist tape ready as well, and then just gently tape on each petal one by one with your Florist tape. Make sure that you stretch the Florist tape first before adding the petals. Be careful as you are taping the petals on, because the petals will move around and potentially hit each other, and you don't want them to break. So just be mindful as you are taping them on, and just keep an eye on that. Repeat the taping process for the medium-sized petals and the large petals. So I will stop talking for a moment and just allow you to watch and enjoy. As the flower becomes bigger, as you add more petals, it's actually easier to turn the flower upside down to actually tape the tape on. It just makes it much easier. Tape the tape all the way down the length of the wire to make sure that all of the wires from each of the petals are all secure and in place. This flower is so delicate and beautiful. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you make this flower, don't forget you can share it with me on Instagram or Facebook. Just do #AriseCakeCreations. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It helps with YouTube picking up my videos in the algorithm and encourages me to make more content for you. Thanks for watching. See you soon.